Good morning, guys, and welcome to the podcast. I'm really delighted about today's guest, Vidya, and she is an entrepreneur and she is a high performance coach and speaker. She's going to talk to us all about, she's got a background in the tech space and she's also incorporated a lot of holistic wellness mindset into her practice. And I'm really happy to have her on to add value to the audience of doctor, lawyer, dentists, entrepreneurs, and business owners. Vidya, welcome.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here, Chris.
Yeah. Briefly introduce yourself, and I'm excited to dive into your work.
Yeah, thank you. So, very briefly, at a high 10 cent or 10-foot level, I have been an entrepreneur since 2008. I moved from India to the United States in way back in 1995 with two suitcases and about $20 in my pocket. And life has an amazing way of challenging you. So I went through all the challenges an immigrant could have gone through and came out on the other side because I had a deep desire to change my situation. So here I am sitting in front of you in this podcast, and I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah. And you're also in Europe right now and based and came from which I really love this idea. My parents were the same ways pursuing the American dream. Talk about the work that you've done, what clients come to you for, what are they aspiring to be or trying to solve, frustrated with to get to
Yeah.
work with you.
Yeah. So my background started as a tech entrepreneur. At first, I was working in corporate, and that was not very soul satisfying for me personally. So I became a tech entrepreneur. I loved solving multiple problems and liked variety in my work. It was interesting because as I went through that journey, what I realized is that most of the time it was a disconnect between leadership and the middle and the actual worker bees, right? So for me, it was like, how can I be a bridge between these two sides? And that started to take me to a new level. Obviously, my own stress levels were like so high in my job, being in tech and being 24/7 on calls, like most doctors and dentists are, right? It's another kind of being on call. I realized that my own stress levels were so high, I wanted to look a little deeper. And that's what started the journey in that inner space where I was like, why are some of these things coming up? But it was this kind of a little painful and challenging at the time, but also looking back now, wow, without all of that, I won't be here today because that's where my skill is. That's where my superpowers are. So I began to coach executives and leadership positions, and that evolved into being an emotional intelligence coach, working with entrepreneurs and leaders at this level now.
Yeah.
Very in a nutshell.
Yeah. And what's fascinating is you created this method. It's called True Resonance Method,
Yeah.
trademarked, and it's a five-dimensional framework for high performing entrepreneurs. What are its core components and how it helps bridge the certainty gap?
Yeah. So I look at the certainty gap as, let's say somebody wants to go to a different place in life and they are in point A, they want to get to point Z. There's ever so many things that have to happen or go in place for them to get to point Z. And point A is where they are. So the first thing when somebody wants to change something in their life, they have to take stock of what is important in their life. So what is innately important? So the certainty gap is about reducing the gap between where they are and where they want to be. So the first step in that is really getting aligned to what is the intrinsic priority that this person has, set of priorities this person has in their life, and getting very clear on that. Then the second pillar, which goes beyond the core alignment, is really about understanding what their emotional drivers are, getting clear on their why, but also understanding what are some of the patterns that they're living with that has taken them up to this point, but will not take them into the next level that they're wanting to get to. So getting clear on that. So now we're starting to shorten the gap. And then the third piece is the vision integration. So how do we transform the clarity that they have in the form of what they want in life in general, plus their zone of genius, plus this emotional clarity that they have. How do we translate that into a multi-dimensional vision for them so that they can align to that larger vision? And then the next piece, which is embodied alignment, is all about developing the habits and the actions, the decisions that are required to support that larger vision. And of course, the fifth piece, which is a communication and embodying that communication, communicating their vision, inspiring people through words, helping people live in alignment with their own values. So that is that fifth piece which comes into place. Now, what I found in my experience working with my clients is as we start to address all of these pillars, so to speak, we reduce the gap of uncertainty and get to certainty in our life. And that's what the certainty gap is. And that's what my method helps them to do.
Yeah, interesting. What came to my mind as you were talking was this idea of just getting to the next level and what's gotten you to your current position and where you're trying to go as a different skill set. And a lot of it's around emotional and mindsets. What are some common blind spots emotionally and mindset that you see most often in 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs?
I think the number one thing I would say that happens is they have a clear vision, they know where they want to go, but then they're thinking that they can get there with what they know and how they've acted all the time. But that is a gap because what I found in life is everything is going to have an element of challenge in it. So we have to get clear on what level of emotional involvement we can have in that, right? And learn to understand that if we're looking at just a short term gratification, it's just like the investment market. If you're just looking for short term gratification, it's going to come and bite you in some other area, right? So it's about how do you create this long term fulfillment? How do you get aligned to having fulfillment over a period of time, which means you're willing to take pain and challenge in doses in order to build that larger vision. But then when you look back on your life, you're looking back at it and saying, I have a life that I have very few, if not no regrets living in the way that I lived. So that's really what the core of what I do and work with. Yeah.
Interesting. The other question is because you've built, you're a multi-million-dollar tech entrepreneur, now mentoring, and I spent the summer in Silicon Valley, and
Yeah.
everything is AI automation. And how do you see the role of the holistic portion that you're doing? How is it being changed, influences, evolved by this really? It's going to be a very disruptive technology.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, yes, AI is going to be disruptive. But the one thing I've realized and learned in my life is that we cannot replace human connection. So, yes, it's going to challenge me, it's going to challenge everybody else into learning new skills. But if we look at it as an opportunity to enhance what we innately do well, then we have a more open mind to it. We embrace it to the degree that is suitable to our business, to suitable to what mission we have. And we also look at it as enhancing our missions. There is that other side of it too, which it can help with. So embracing the challenge in it and also understanding that it's going to support us through that challenge. So I think we make that choice. We make the choice to look at it either as a challenge or to as an opportunity instead of a challenge. So it's like when the market goes down, there's also an opportunity to buy. So that is the way I look at it. And for me personally, technology has always been something that I have used. But as a technologist, I've also learned that it can never replace human connection. I think the people who are going to work toward understanding what their zones of genius are get very clear on that specific set of things that they do really well, and then use technology to support that. And for leaders, it's important to really help their employees, their teams really level up use the technology, but understand where your expertise is, where your mastery is, and help them grow that area. That's where I really see the beauty of the technology coming together with human connection. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. In terms of leadership roles, this a lot of companies and corporations are going to start utilizing this technology and for example like robo taxis and just Uber drivers, bus drivers. These emotional power is the new currency of leadership, and how does that look like in real life, like examples when navigating change in today's
Mhm.
world?
I think it comes back to the previous point, which is having the objectivity to see what will help any business owner or entrepreneur or corporation, right? There's an element of this is going to help you, but it's also going to challenge your organization in a certain way. So understanding that, but to do that, you have to be emotionally intelligent, because if you're driven by very strong opinions on how it will be horrible for you, then you're only going to see that side of it. But if you can open the mind and say, I can see how it might be challenging in this area, but I can also see how it might help me here. Now you are positioning yourself to be more balanced and objective, coming into the frontal part of the brain, which helps to really translate into a more realistic plan, because it's here to stay. It's not going to go away anywhere. So, how do we use it in a way that supports the mission rather than throws our mission out? Is the real point.
Yeah, interesting. Along those same lines, a lot of because I was having lunch with a colleague the other day, and he's an entrepreneur, and his parents' definition of success was to be a doctor, be like a chairman of a department, or be a CEO, that was like that vision of success. And he founded his company, and it's hundreds of millions of dollars. But he still considers him as a he still views himself as a failure because that's he said his career is shitty because he didn't fulfill what his parents' definition of success. So how do you help leaders connect with their purpose and we're chasing like the next become the next Sam Altman or become the next Elon Musk? How do you address this idea?
I think I'll relate this to my own example, because I grew up in a culture where you pretty much listened to your parents and did what they asked you to do. So this is exactly what I did in my career too. I said, okay, I got to go get really good scores in math. And I was honestly shitty in school. I was just horrible in school. That was not where my skill set was. My skill set was in solving real world problems for people. That's where my skill set truly was sitting. But I went through that school system thinking this is how you become successful. You go to school, you get your two master's degrees, and then you come into your workplace and you work your 9 to 5, sometimes 9 to 12, whatever you want to call it. You know, you work that job, you put your retirement money away, and then suddenly magically you're going to be uber successful. But then we don't include the concept of fulfillment in that success. And that is the problem. Fulfillment is about you being connected to what you're doing. And if you're not connected, then it's going to show up as I'm never going to meet the standard that somebody else has set up for me, because it's their standard to begin with. It's not yours. So, this is what took a lot of unwinding in my own life and to my family's chagrin, because there's no other entrepreneur in my family. It's just me. Everybody else went to that 9 to 5 job, earned a good living. And I'm like, this is the worst way you can ask me to spend my time. It does not inspire me at all. Maybe that's for some people, it's just not for me. So it took me a long time, Chris, to understand and separate them and what the values they had from my values, and really learn to pull in my values into life and stand up for myself. And I will tell you this, I at the cost of a lot of relationships in my life. But ultimately, the only person I'm going to live with is myself. I go to bed with myself. So this is what changed the way I saw that situation. And I became honest with myself.
Mm.
That's so. how I found my purpose is really digging through my childhood notes in my brain of where I was and what gave me joy and what robbed me of my joy, and really go back. So that's what formed the basis for true resonance for me, to
Hmm.
help people get back, anchor back into that sense of self that they had, that sense of wonderment they had when they were children, what really gave them that innate inspiration, what brought them joy on the inside. That's what caused it for me to shift it in my own life. That's what I show people how to do now.
Hmm. Interesting. And I think what's interesting is the core of it is you're talking about purpose is different. It can correlate with outward success. Sometimes it's in creating our own values and definitions. What was really interesting was he goes back to he has dinner with his parents. And for example, like a surgeon making $1 million a year and he's making 2, 3 times that, and still they still have the same kind of old ingrained beliefs, and he was sharing with me, if he listens to his parents, he's gonna be poor and miserable, so they're just a different generation, and he just when he talks to them and they don't get it, he just understands where they're coming from, and he just the other question is, because you've come from I also from this same Asian background,
Yeah.
and you have cross-cultural awareness, and how has it shaped your approach to emotional intelligence, leadership development when working with people of all different from different countries and races and values? How does that help you?
It's a great question because I have literally lived and worked in 7 different countries, sometimes worked in countries like right now in France, and I don't really speak any French, but I have so many French friends, entrepreneurs mainly. What I've realized is that it goes back to our first question, first couple of questions that we were exploring. It's really about human connection. It's really about meeting human beings where they are. And a lot of people have told me, oh my God, Parisians are so snobbish. And I'm like, I haven't seen a sign of it over here. I get along with Parisians just fine. I have no problems with them because I think I have the ability to understand that I'm in their culture. I don't speak French. So I don't walk into a restaurant and demand something in English. I say, I don't speak anything. I don't speak French. And I make an attempt to say a few sentences and I just really try to connect with people. I try to meet them and not take them personally because they're not showing me my value. I know my value. So it's about really listening from that angle and being there and being present and meeting people. That's what it comes down to. And having the ability to lead others through that, showing them maturity changes the way people relate with you. It's something magical. It's something magical.
Wow, fascinating. How can people connect with you, reach out to you, learn more about your true resonance method, and connect with you?
So I am on Instagram, quite active. It's called The Only Vidya because there's the only anybody. Everybody is the only. And so I invite connection at the only VIDYA. And Chris, perhaps you can drop the link for people also in the episode. But basically, DM me the word 10, and I will give to your audience as my gift a template, a blueprint of the 10 habits of emotionally intelligent leaders. This is not just go do this, to do that. It comes from my 20 plus years of really working with leaders to help them step up their game so they feel aligned in their life. That's what this blueprint is all about. So your crowd, your audience is more than welcome to have that for free. So I welcome them to connect with me and ask for that. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. I really enjoyed talking with you and connecting with you, and keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be on here.